You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
Alrighty, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and I am joined by your co-host, Kevin. How you doing tonight?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Just keep coming through the slate here, finding out what I like and what I don't like, and hopefully get set to make everybody some money this weekend. How are you?
You know, I cannot complain. We made it through another week. We get to sit down on the Friday night show, which is always one of my favorite times of the week. So I cannot complain. Super excited about this one. Looking to, this weekend, I'm really looking to try and do a little bit of redemption for myself on as far as some of my rankings have gone, as far as some of that has gone lately, because while it's been okay, right? It's been middle of the pack as far as how these things have been kind of ranked and all that kind of stuff. It's not the performance that I like to put up. So I'm hoping to get back to a good performance here and put up those rankings and do things that are helping people out and getting people to where they want their fantasy journey to take them this week. So hopefully we can get that one going and get that rock and roll. But other than that, I cannot complain. We had an interesting game last night, and I say interesting in the standpoint that it was uninteresting, which is the fact that, we saw so many of these games in prime time early on in the season that were just these amazing matchups. Even when it didn't necessarily look like they were going to be great on paper, they didn't disappoint once we actually saw them play and saw that go. And man, that was, while that one didn't necessarily disappoint, because I think a lot of folks had anticipated that being very one-sided affair, I didn't anticipate it being that much of a one-sided affair, and the Falcons looking as absolutely bad as they did last night. What were your thoughts on that game?
The Falcons are just bad. Their offensive line's bad. They have no ability for explosive plays because, 1 to 2 seconds after the snap, someone's, basically sitting on top of Matt Ryan. And I don't put this on him. I don't. Like he tried doing everything he could, but when the only person you're worried about stopping is Kyle Pitts, it makes it really easy for 9 other people to worry about Matt Ryan and what he's doing. So the Falcons are just a bad team right now. The Patriots, their defense continued to steamroll. They're playing great ball right now. Offensively, Mac Jones is just so stinking efficient. Like, not necessarily driving the ball down the field, but he's not putting his team in bad positions. They're finding ways to stay balanced and move the chains. And what a great way to protect a rookie quarterback with now a two-headed monster at running back, to a little bit of relief and nice, easy passes. And he's 4th in the league in completion percentage this year. And honestly, I think that's only going to go up here the last few weeks because they're just damned and determined to make sure he is always in a position to succeed.
Right. Like that's the one thing that it kind of amazes me on is how well they have brought him along as quickly as they have, right? Like you think about a lot of the narrative that we've seen come out of the Patriots offense and that offensive scheme and system in the past and how it was a difficult one to learn and things like that. But he's really kind of picked that up and showing out pretty well on that. But at the same time too, right? Like the coaching staff is doing everything they can to put him in a position to succeed, which again speaks to a good organization and speaks to good coaching. There is really putting your players in a position to win and put your players in a position to succeed. And they're definitely doing that with a young quarterback. So that's nice to see instead of some of these other rookies that we've seen kind of come out and it's hey, now you're here and we're really glad we took you in the first round. And now you've just got to carry us and figure it out as it goes kind of thing. But part of that also speaks to the fact too, that he was drafted, 15th overall instead of a top 5 type of pick where some of these other guys were top 10 type of very much earlier on where you're going to a team that has less to offer in some of that. So I think there's some of that's coming into play with that as well. But overall it's been very interesting to see, right? The Patriots have really been that defensive team that we thought they would be coming into this season. They're doing really well there as far as that running back. that running back room goes, I'm very split as far as how my feelings are towards it, because I in our home league, right, I drafted Damien Harris, took him, I don't know what, with a 7th round pick, I think. Like, I got some value on that one, and he would been doing very, very well for that draft capital there. And last night definitely didn't do that. And on the flip side, the guy that he's now splitting carries with is an Oklahoma Sooner named Ramondre Stevenson, that has come in and started showing up pretty well there. So a little bit of a mixed bag there for my fantasy team. I'm one or the other, because I've got both of them rostered on that team. Just when Damien went out, I picked up Ramondre. So I'm good if they pick one or the other, but let's just pick one or the other. My fantasy team needs that.
That ain't going to happen. You're going to be looking at other options. Belichick will ride both of them until one of them gives him a reason to yank them. You'll see both here going forward. I really believe that. So Stevenson has done a great job into playing his way into more snaps and more usage. Damien Harris, it's not that he did anything to play himself out of it, right? He just cracked the door open, and they saw this opportunity like, hey, we have 2 guys who can do a really good job. So let's keep them healthy. Let's continue this style of football that we want to run. No pun intended, but, having a 2-headed monster where they seemingly have full confidence in each guy, and they're just going to alternate. The alternating series thing that we saw against Atlanta, I expect to continue. I don't see a reason that would change against any of their opponents. It doesn't really matter.
Yep, I would agree with you on that one, which it is what it is, and that's part of the joy of fantasy football, when you have a guy that comes out cracking and doing very good things for you, and then the door gets open, somebody else comes in, has a great game, and they earned themselves some more playing time there. So nothing to be said on that one, other than the fact of and them's the punches, and you just got to roll with them. And so there's some good things there, but it's very interesting to see just the continued kind of domination that the Patriots have over Atlanta. So
yeah, Matt. The Troy Aikman and Joe Buck mentioned during the telecast. So the Patriots are one of 3 teams that Matt Ryan has never beat in his career. And I guess it was the Falcons, because he's played for them his entire career. The Patriots, as we well know after last night as well. And then the other one was the Steelers, which makes kind of sense. The Steelers have been pretty good his entire career, and they had the 3 Bs there, and their couple Super Bowl runs and everything else. So that makes sense, but that's just, when Matt Ryan has no help around him, he's not good enough to overcome that. Like he can be efficient. He can be a field general or a gunslinger. He can do a lot of those things, but he needs help around him. And I wonder, not that this would have made all the difference in the world, but because he's on IR right now, but I do wonder if the Falcons regret letting Julio go and letting him walk out the door.
Yeah, there's some of that, but at the same time too, right? Like, Julio hasn't really been that impactful for the Titans either this year, because he's been injured, and he'd play a game, miss a game, play a game. Now he's on IR. So, even if he was there, who knows if he would be available for that. But if nothing else, the threat of Julio Jones being on the field, makes the defense respect the coverage there, and allows Kyle Pitts to not see a bracketed coverage all game long, and teams just focus on taking him out of the game. And especially with Cordell Patterson missing last night too, also didn't help.
No, that didn't help. They need Calvin Ridley, and he's more than allowed to take care of himself and all that. And I'm not going to get into that again. I wish him a speedy recovery. I hope he decides to come back and play football, because he's a good football player. He's fun to watch. He's good for the NFL, but I understand he's taking care of himself. But from the team aspect and watching the product on the field, the team does need him out there, because they are not very good without him.
Yeah, you could definitely see some of that. But again, that's a they weren't great on either side of the ball there, while their linebackers showed some pretty decent play there. The rest of the defense, not so much. So
they held their own. I was impressed. They weren't the doormat that they were against the Cowboys. They stepped up and gave the offense every chance that they could to, succeed. And 5 turnovers by the Falcons, that no team come that. I shouldn't say no team. The chances of overcoming that are so astronomically small that unless you are the elite of the elite, you really don't have a to be in that game at the end. The Falcons really found a way to do that, and they went 0 for 3 in the red zone. They made a field goal, but then there were illegal procedures, so then they had to re-kick it and then missed it from 53 yards, I think. So it was just a snowball of errors, and this is what you get. I mean, this team really doesn't have anything to play for at this point now. They are a bad football team. Everybody knows it. So now it's gut check time. How much pride do they have? How much professional integrity do they have to kind of bounce back and finish out the season strong and try and put a competitive component to their games together? Because right now, ain't nobody afraid of the Falcons.
No, they really aren't. So, yep, that's I think we've kind of wrapped up with the Thursday night thoughts there and all of that. We'll go ahead and start getting into the game breakdowns here and move in that direction. Guys, before we get there, though, you can follow us on the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Good Old Boys FF. Please hop over there, interact with us. We'd enjoy getting all your questions, your comments, things like that, and enjoy interacting with you guys that way. Same thing too on this show tonight. If you guys have questions, comments, anything like that, need help for Sunday, right? That's what we're here for. Throw those into the comments there. Let's talk about them. Let's chat about them. Let's have some dialogue around it and have some fun. And one of the best ways to help us out is heading over to the youtube.com, the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast YouTube channel. Click the subscribe button, ring the bell. And one of the best ways to make sure that you don't miss us anytime that we go live. We do the show 3 times a week and appreciate y'all tuning in. So, Kevin, are you ready to start talking about Sunday?
Yeah, let's do it. I like the slate this weekend. This is going to be a fun slate of games, so I'm all excited.
It's definitely a better one than what I remember talking about the last couple of weeks there. And so it should be a lot of fun. Let's go ahead and start getting into the very first matchup here. We have the Indianapolis Colts heading to the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo's favored by 7. The over-under on this one's 49.5. What are your thoughts here?
So we have a rematch of the divisional round last game, right, with a Phillip Rivers-led Colts team going into Buffalo, and they came up 3 points short in that game. But fantasy purpose-wise, this was a huge game for Michael Pittman in that playoff loss. So there's a lot of people saying you don't play Pittman. He's an absolute bust this week, and you're not going to get anything out of it. I'm not necessarily subscribing to that. I don't know if he's going to be a smash play, but I'm also not shying away. Like, there are definitely far, far worse options than playing Michael Pittman this week. And I think the Colts are going to keep this competitive. I think the Colts stay within the 7. So that's where my money's going. And I'm taking the under. I think the Colts are going to try and slow this game way, way down. They're going to try and keep it dirty and keep it close. And so we're going to see a lot of Jonathan Taylor. They're going to be leaning on their offensive line. Carson Wentz is going to be asked to stay within himself, manage the game appropriately, hit the open receivers, keep the chains moving when you have to, but then turn around, hand it to your running back, and give us a shot in the fourth quarter. And I think the Colts can do that. So I think this stays within the 7 points. Money line, I don't know if I'm betting the money line on this one because both teams want this game. Buffalo needs it to keep their lead in the AFC East. Their schedule is not easy. Here finishing out the season, they got the Patriots twice still. This game against the Colts, I think they play Miami again, who defensively has been looking a lot better lately. So, I'm not looking forward to betting the money line. I think I'm going to stay away from that in this game. But I do like the Colts to cover the 7, and I do like the under.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. They've got just kind of that rough schedule finishing out, right? Like Indianapolis, New Orleans, New England, Tampa Bay, Carolina, New England again, Atlanta, New York, Jets. So the last couple of games of the season, they get kind of those easier games there. But New England's been playing tough. Carolina's been putting a good defensive product on the field. Tampa Bay has been playing. The last two games have been a little bit of a letdown from them, but I think they're going to bounce back here real quick. The New Orleans game next week could be very interesting because New Orleans has been playing some good defense there. So there's the Bills, like you said, don't have that easy schedule to finish this one off. So they can't kind of take that letdown game or take an overlooked game here, and they really have to just play every one of these strong. On the flip side too, the Colts have to come out and really have to win games in order to try and make their way into the playoffs there, and they're going to have to really do that again. They've got one of the toughest schedules out there in the entire in the entire NFL. So I do like your thought there as far as this one being a slower game, because that's how I kind of see this one going to, right? Like I see Indianapolis trying to control time of possession, really slow the game down, make this thing won in the trenches on either side of the ball. That's where I see them. That's where I see this game being ultimately won, is in the trenches, on that offensive defensive line type of thing, and really seeing how that comes to play. Now, as far as Michael Pittman, again, I like that thought there. I moved him up my rankings there. I had him a little bit higher than some of the other folks out there, because again, this is one of those that you would expect Indianapolis to be trailing a little bit in this one, and have to play from behind a little bit here and there. Now, again, I see it being a one possession game, so it stays more of that neutral game script, but it's not going to surprise me if they try and take a couple of shots with him throughout this game, and him come away with a couple of those things and put up some good yardage and fall into the end zone. Wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. So I like your thoughts there, and I'll co-sign on that one there with the under and the Colts covering the spread there. Any other thoughts on this one?
No, this should be a good game. So I'm excited to watch this game. I don't think it's going to be in our market. I think we're going to be watching the Packers-Vikings game, I'm guessing, in our market, not the Colts-Buffalo game. But those of you who do get to watch it on just cable television, enjoy it. Like, this should be a really, really good physical football game. So I'm looking forward to catching it on a replay somewhere, or downloading the coach's film, something like that.
There you go. All right, let's go ahead and head on over to Baltimore Ravens, heading to the Chicago Bears. Baltimore's favored by 4.5. The over-under on this one, 44.5. What are your thoughts here?
So for some reason, I think the Bears are going to keep this pretty close. So defensively, it hasn't been the Bears' problem. Like, they've been pretty good defensively. They're not getting their breaks beat off of them or anything like that. It's just finding a rhythm offensively. Now, the Bears are in trouble. Allen Robinson's doubtful with his hamstring injury. So it's Darnell Mooney, Marcus Godwin, I believe, and then Jimmy Graham, Cole Kmet, whoever else that they're trying to get out there for Justin Fields to throw the ball to. I think he's going to continue to use his legs. I think he has to, just like we've seen the last couple of weeks. He needs, 60 to 75 yards rushing at a minimum for them to be able to keep this close. The Ravens have been pretty good against the run, but that's not going to stop them from giving Monty his fair share of carries to try and keep this defensive line from really jumping the gun and getting after Fields. I think overall, the Ravens find a way to win this game by about 6. So I think I'm taking the Ravens to cover. I think I'm looking more towards the under, though. I think the Bears defense can do a good enough job keeping the Ravens in check. And I obviously don't expect the Bears to be putting up, 25, 26 points in this game. They're going to be sitting somewhere around that, 17 to 23 mark. So that being said, if they hit 23, then yeah, the game's probably going over. But if they're sitting at 17, I think we slide just under that total for this game.
Yeah, I saw this one playing out about 23-20 when I was looking through it and going through it. The Ravens have been notoriously slow starting this year and really not being able to do much about the first three quarters. And all of a sudden they wake up at the fourth quarter and go, oh my gosh, we got to go out and win a football game and then do that. And that has made for some lower scoring affairs on that. Same thing too with the Bears, right? I don't see them necessarily putting up a ton of points here as well. So I'm going to see this one playing out about a 23-20 in favor of the Ravens. So I'm going to take the Bears to cover and the under as well. But it's on a just barely on both accounts there. It'll be interesting to see how this one comes to play there, because also Khalil Mack is out for the Bears there as well. So that could sway the defensive side of things there just a little bit. May make that a little bit tougher for them to get some pressure back there and make Lamar, move around, things like that. So that could change things there a little bit. But again, I still think I like the Ravens 23, the Bears 20 in this matchup. And I do think that David Montgomery will find some lanes to run. And I think he'll end up having a pretty good game, somewhere around about 95 to 100 yards, right in that type of range when it's all said and done, I think. So any other thoughts on this one?
No. It's going to be a good old-fashioned Chicago-style game. A lot of good defense in this game. It'll be good from that side of it.
Right. I would agree. Let's go ahead and head on over to Cleveland, where the Detroit Lions are heading to the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland favored by 11.5 in this one. The over-under is 43. What are your thoughts here?
I'm going to say Detroit covers. Cleveland, we saw this a couple weeks ago. Cleveland's not good enough to cover this big of a point spread. That being said, I expect a ton of Nick Chubb. Tons and tons and tons of Nick Chubb. So, with that being said, I expect this to kind of slow down a little bit. They'll drain the clock. Honestly, the Lions are probably going to try and do the same thing with a lot of DeAndre Swift. Both teams want to play a slow, grinded out game with Jared Goff not being able to play. So we're going to see tons of DeAndre Swift. Hopefully we get a sprinkle of TJ Hawkinson. And for the Browns, lots of Nick Chubb. I mean, Baker's still injured, guys. Like, he's still playing hurt. He hasn't looked very good. So take the ball out of his hands. Go back to what you're good at. Run the ball, then work in the play action. Give him some easy passes to help keep the secondary off the line of scrimmage. And then, go win the game in the fourth quarter. So the total seems about right. 23-20 again. I mean, something like that. I don't see this being an 11-point game at all. So Detroit cover. And I'm going to take the under just because I think they're both going to grind it out style of football. This is going to be kind of an ugly one.
Yeah, I also was seeing it right about in that same type of range. I see it as a 21-14 type of matchup there, 21-17 type of thing there. Either way, it will be in that under there, and I think both of these teams are going to play each other pretty close. And again, it's if you love defense, if you love a classic style type of football game, I think this is the game for you. But if you like high scoring offenses, this is not the one that you'll want to watch there. I do think that the Browns win, and it's going to be about a 21-17, 21-14 type of matchup here. So again, I like the Lions to cover. I like the Browns to win and the under on this one. And I do like everything that you were saying about Nick Chubb. I think he's going to have just a monster day for fantasy in this one here as well. Any other thoughts?
No, not on this one.
All righty. Let's go ahead and head to Tennessee, where the Houston Texans are taking on the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee's favored by 10.5. The over-under on this one is 44.5. What are your thoughts here?
The Tennessee money line. I mean, and the odds on the money line are ugly. Like, you don't play this one just because there's no return, right? I mean, that's where it is. Tennessee's going to win this game for all foreseeable reasons on paper. Now they still have to play it, but they're just kind of cooking right now, even without Derrick Henry. So I expect this to be more of an Adrian Peterson type game. McNichols is not playing because of the concussion. Yes, everyone kind of has this newfound darling in Donta Foreman, after last week and seeing so much. But I think this is really an AP type of game. One of the best props I like across the board is an Adrian Peterson anytime touchdown. Like, I think that just begs to hit. So be throwing a couple bucks on that one for sure. But this Houston team is not very good. They're going out on the road. Tyrod's going to do what he can, but their offensive line is going to struggle. So I like Brandon Cooks from the Texans. I think he is going to be a big reason that they stay, relevant here, at least for a little bit in this game. Outside of that, it's kind of Tennessee all the way. And I'm going to take the over in this one because I'm sure there's going to be some defensive touchdown from Tennessee again that I'm not thinking about. That's going to sneak it just on top of the over, something like 27-20, 27-17, something like that. But do I think Tennessee covers, Derek? And that's the big question. And I'm going to say no. I don't think there's a reason for them to go out and cover 10 points. Another grinded out game on the ground. They don't have a reason to try and put a lot of points up on the board.
Right. That's how I see that one too. I was thinking the Texans cover this one. Again, this is one of those that Tennessee they have a lot of letdown kind of games, right? Like when they play teams that they should go out and just absolutely destroy, they tend to let them hang around. They tend to let them put points on the board, things like that. So at that point, I kind of like the over on this one because of the fact that, it's not going to surprise me if you see the Houston Texans put up around 20 points on this thing and the Titans put up somewhere around about 24, 25 type of thing, 27 even. So it's one of those that it's riding just barely there, that I think that it's going to end up with the over. I do like Houston to cover on this one. Again, part of that is that Tennessee has had a hard time just putting away teams that they should put away early and completely change that. And I go back thinking to the Jets on that one very heavily there. Again, same thing too with the Jacksonville game. They let Jacksonville score 19 points on that one. And in both of those games, neither one of those teams, should have really been in those games and being able to put up as many points as they did. So I like the over on that one because I think there will be points scored in this one, but I don't think Tennessee covers the 10.5. So I do like the Texans to bring it in there. And again, I kind of like the Adrian Peterson route that you were taking there. And as far as Houston goes, if I have to start Tyrod Taylor or I have to start Brandon Cooks, I'm going to. And Brandon Cooks in a bad play. Tyrod Taylor, I would be looking somewhere else. But if you got him in your super flex, that's sometimes them's the breaks. So, alrighty. Question coming in on YouTube from Jonathan. Trade Aaron Jones for A.J. Brown. I have Najee and Monty, but want more receiver depth. If that's what you're going off of is to get receiver depth, I mean, I could see that. I probably wouldn't go that deal just because of the fact when Aaron Jones comes back here in another 2 weeks, he's going to be prime ready to go into the playoffs there. And then I've got a three-headed monster on my running back room with Najee, Aaron Jones, Monty heading into the playoffs there. So I've got RB1, 2 figured out, my flex figured out heading in there. But Jonathan, I'd be very interested to see what your wide receiver options are there. So yeah, if you can throw those out there, I'd love to see them. Kevin, what are your thoughts here?
I don't mind trading Aaron Jones if you want to. That's not the part that hangs me up. It's the A.J. Brown part that hangs me up, just because the Titans are so one-dimensional, and A.J. Brown is clearly, I mean, not even close, but clearly the one and only consistent passing option that they have in Tennessee, that I really think for teams to be able to stop them, they're just going to continue to bracket A.J. Brown. You're going to see a lot of subpar performances going forward, kind of like what we saw last week from him. And it's not that he's not talented, but the Titans aren't going to force feed him the ball like some teams do with their star receivers. Tannehill's, quite frankly, not necessarily skilled enough to be able to do that with just one receiver like Aaron Rodgers does with Devontae Adams. So again, I'm all for trading Aaron Jones if you want to. I think I agree with Derek, because I'd probably tend to keep him. But if you're going to move him, I would do it for something other than A.J. Brown.
Right. Yeah. I just don't see the return on that one there. So, but Jonathan, thanks for chiming in there, guys. Any questions, comments, anything like that? Throw them out here. Let's talk about them and see what we can do to help you guys prepare for Week 11 here. So we'll go ahead and head on over into the next matchup here. The Green Bay Packers heading to the Minnesota Vikings. Green Bay is favored by 1.5. The over-under 47.5 on this one. What are your thoughts?
I keep hearing about how well Mike Zimmer's played against Aaron Rodgers and what a wonderful job he's done over the course of his career and everything else. And, that's part of the reason this game's so close and Minnesota stands a real chance and all that stuff. And all I can think about is the game with the Packers and the Vikings last year, where Aaron Rodgers had like 330 yards by the third quarter. Devontae Adams had like 200 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns. Aaron Jones went off. Like, they just absolutely destroyed him. I mean, and the game was over by halftime, and it wasn't even that close. So I'm not saying that's going to happen again to that extent, but the Packers are clearly better than the Vikings. Like, the fact that this is a 1.5-point spread is almost mind-boggling to me. So I'm all over the Packers to cover this. I'm going to take the over because Kirk Cousins will continue to throw the ball to try and stay in the game here. So we'll see. First half, we'll see a lot of Dalvin Cook. Second half, we may not see as much Dalvin Cook. We may see more Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. Might even see a Conklin sighting again as he continues to vulture touchdowns in the red zone away from the receivers. But ultimately, I like the Packers. I like the over.
Yeah, I would agree with you there as well, right? The Packers defense have been playing much, much better over the last few weeks there. I get that Aaron Jones is going to miss this game, but at the same time, A.J. Dillon has been looking much better there. You've got Aaron Rodgers coming out there throwing the ball, and I don't see them keeping this one close, right? Like right now on the season, Green Bay is 9-1 against the spread. The only one that they missed on the spread was that very first game against New Orleans. They are 9 in a row against the spread on this one, and I see that continuing this one here. So I see the Packers easily winning by more than 3. Potentially, I see this one probably being about a touchdown type of game when it's all said and done. So, if you're looking for it, I'm probably seeing a 31-27 or 31-24 type of matchup when it's all said and done, with Green Bay winning on that. That would bring us to the over. That would bring us to a Green Bay win and cover there as well. So yeah, I'm not sold on this Vikings team being able to keep this game. While they may keep it close, I don't see it coming down to a 1.5 point type of spread that the odds makers are seeing on this one. I just don't see how it does that. But again, they get paid a lot of money to do what they do there, and they're right more often than they're not, it seems like. So we'll see how that one comes to play. Any other thoughts on this one?
No, I other than I agree with you. A.J. Dillon is a smash play this week. I think he's going to finish top 5 for running backs this week. So if you have him, you need to play him. If for whatever reason he is, on the waiver wire, if you're in a smaller league with a short bench type deal, and there's lots of guys on the waiver wire, go grab him right now, and you won't regret it. So Devonta Adams, huge game. Justin Jefferson started getting involved last week. I do expect more of that to continue. So this will, hopefully put the Vikings out of their misery as they, are kind of toying with playoff relevance still, even at 4-5.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that they're still in the playoff hunt there as this one has gone, because they haven't necessarily looked like a playoff team in a lot of those games there, but that NFC side of things is very kind of compacted right there around the 5-4, the 5-5 type of mark there, to the point where you've got some folks saying that there's even teams out there that are 6-4 that they can make a run and make a push there. So very interesting to see how this one ultimately plays out there. Let's go ahead and head on over into the next matchup here. You got the Miami Dolphins heading to the New York Jets. The Miami's favored by 3. The over-under is 44.5. What are your thoughts here?
Defense travels. The Dolphins defense has shown up here the past couple weeks, and I do expect that to continue. Joe Flacco is going to be stepping in, so he's a statue back there. Like, he is absolutely not mobile, and if he starts to move off his spot, he is easy to bring down. So it's going to be tough. Like, the Jets need to have a lot of quick slants in place, maybe some wide receiver screens, something to get the ball out of Flacco's hands fast to be able to compete. And on the flip side for the Dolphins, keep doing what you're doing. Find Gesicki again. He had the target opportunities last week, just couldn't bring him down. So I know fantasy owners were frustrated with the goose egg last Thursday night, but they had 10 days to prepare for this game. Generally, these games end up something along the lines of 24-20, which puts us right there at the line. I kind of think that's still the same, but that would mean that the Dolphins cover, and I could see that, a 24-20 type game, but the under, because that Miami defense is playing so stout right now. I just don't think the Jets have enough weapons to ultimately make this a game at the end.
Right. On the same token, too, I don't see the Dolphins having enough gusto to put up too many points there where, even if you see the Jets put up 10, that kind of thing, that the over is going to be hit. Because I think you're right. I think this one plays out very much into a 20-17, 21-18 type of thing is really how I see this one playing out there, to the point where it's almost going to be a push type of line for me. But in that case, I will favor the Dolphins and say that they cover on it, and they'll find a way to get to a 4-point victory there, and that the under will be hit. I just don't see how either team is going to put up enough points for the over to come in on that one. It'll be interesting to see, is this the week we see a Myles Gaskin type of sighting there? The Jets have been absolutely horrendous against running backs and allowing a ton of points to opposing running backs. So I don't know if you're going to see them continue that trend there, where you'll see the Dolphins running backs be able to put up a lot of points on the ground here. But Myles Gaskin is a very intriguing play for me this week in a lot of different formats.
Yeah, I like Gaskin. I like Gesicki this week. I still like Jalen Waddle. Like, he's not – and just because he's a different type of receiver than your standard X, right? Like, he is the best receiver on the field, but he is very shifty. He runs very good routes, and he is dynamic with the ball in his hands. So the Dolphins have been doing a pretty good job scheming him open. So I do think you see some Jalen Waddle. Outside of those guys, like, we got our annual Albert Wilson sighting last week against the Ravens, excuse me. So I don't think we're going to see that again. And Tua's going to do his Tua type things, but I don't see a blowout there. Like you said, I don't see either team putting up a ton of points.
No, I think this will be if you love defense, this will be the one to watch. If you like low scoring, again, another one to watch there. Let's go ahead and head on over to Philadelphia, where the New Orleans Saints come to town. So New Orleans Saints taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. Philly favored by 2. The over-under is 43 on this one. What are your thoughts here?
I don't know what I think about this game. This game I'm pretty undecided about. Like, Trevor Siemian has not looked that great, but Taysom Hill's he's dinged up again. He's been on the injury report all week. We know Alvin Kamara's not going. So you have Harris, you have Smith, you have Adam Troutman, you have other no names for the Saints out there trying to catch passes. Their defense has been really good as of late, but the Eagles are kind of starting to find their rhythm. Like, earlier this season, I would have told you this wasn't even close, and it didn't matter who the Saints trotted out. But now the Eagles are starting to find their rhythm. I got to see that firsthand in Denver last week, and man, was that painful to watch as they took on my Broncos. But defensively, they're getting a little better. They found out that they can run the ball, and when they do, they're pretty stinking good because it opens up the field for Devonta Smith and the rest of that team. Dallas Goedert cleared concussion protocol, so that helps. So, I'm going to take the over in this game. I think that's a little bit contrarian to what most people are thinking. So I'm going to take the over in this game, and I'll take the Eagles to cover. The Saints are going to struggle on the road in this one, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they will struggle a little bit, but the Eagles have yet to win a home game, so that definitely plays into my thought process here as well. And the Saints really have an identity as far as their defense goes, where they're going to stop the run, right? If they're going to do nothing else on the defensive side of the ball, they're going to stop the run, which I have a feeling can make the Eagles be one-dimensional in this game here. And we could see an Eagles team from that we saw 4 or 5 weeks ago type of thing. So I don't know that I necessarily like the Eagles to cover. I think this one's going to come down, and it's going to be whoever has the ball last in a very low scoring type of game. But again, I don't. So on the flip side of that, I see the New Orleans defense being able to shut the Eagles down. But on the flip side, I don't know that the New Orleans offense is going to be able to do anything either, right? You've got Mark Ingram that you're going to have running the ball. Trevor Siemian's going to have to be throwing the ball to, Traquan Smith, Marquez Callaway. Like, I just don't see how the Saints are going to be able to put points on the board either in this one. So this is one that really, I just don't see it being an overly fun game to watch. It'll be a good game if you like defense and you like seeing that side of the ball. But as far as fantasy goes, I'm not looking to really play any of the guys on this one. So looking at it, I'll probably take the under, and I'll take the Eagles in a very close matchup. I don't know that I'll give it a field goal, but I'm not happy about that one.
And I guess I was pulling up their schedule and kind of going through who they've played this year. And they haven't seen a quarterback that can move around all season long. I mean, the most mobile quarterback that they've seen is Ryan Tannehill. And yes, he's athletic, but he's not a mobile quarterback per se.
Right. He's not near as good at using his legs as Jalen Hurts is.
Right. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, Sam Darnold, Mac Jones, Daniel Jones, which they lost that game in OT, and Daniel Jones,
Jones is probably the next most mobile quarterback that they've seen.
Yeah, so they lost the game against Daniel Jones. They lost the game against and the Giants. They lost the game against Ryan Tannehill and the Titans, and both those teams, their quarterbacks at least have a little wiggle, right? They played the Seahawks, but that was Geno. That wasn't Russ. So this rushing attack that the Eagles present is something completely different that the Saints haven't quite seen this year. Now, you're absolutely right. They still want to stop the run, but they are going to give them some different looks. There's going to be a little bit more RPO. You're going to see a little bit more quarterback action off that RPO than what they've seen all year. So I think the Eagles could jump out on them a little bit, right? If the Saints aren't quite ready for it and the speed coming out from behind center, you could see Jalen Hurts be able to run around a decent amount in the first half until they come up with adjustments. And then the second half, he might be a little bit more prone to sit back in the pocket and find Goedert and Smith a little bit as the Saints adjust. So that part will be interesting. I'll be looking at that to see how well they handle it. But this isn't necessarily a pretty game. There's not a whole lot of big names playing in this one on the Saints side. And the Eagles, for what they are, outside of Jalen Hurts and Devonta Smith, they don't have a whole lot of big name players on their side of the ball either.
Right. And I'm trying to remember back. I'm pretty sure that it was the Saints that we saw Jalen Hurts make actually have a pretty good game against last year. That might have been his actual debut on the start there.
12?
Yeah, I believe so. December 13th last year. on that one. So it looks like that's probably the one that we saw him actually make the start. Again, he didn't do much through the air, 17 for 30 for 167 yards and 1 touchdown there, but he absolutely gassed them on the ground for 18 rush attempts for 106 yards. So you could be onto something there with that one. Now, it'll be interesting to see, right? Like, again, the Saints have that passion point as far as stopping the run and not allowing rushing yards to it. So it could be one of those that do they have that really remembering that, and they've got that pinned on the bulletin board that they allowed this guy to go off for over 100 yards rushing last year on them, or is it one of those that they that they're going to do some other things there? So you know what? I think you talked me into it.
You know why you remember this game so much? Because that game is what kicked you out of fantasy playoffs last year.
Yep. You're right.
Because Alex, our co-host, was starting him, picked him up off the waiver wire that week.
Yep.
And played him against you.
Yep. Yeah. Now that you say that, that also sounds very, very accurate there as well. So, yeah. You know what? I'm going to go with you. I'm going to say the Eagles, and I'm going to take the over. So I'm going to change my mind on that one. You talked me into it. I just don't see how the Saints are going to score enough points to keep this thing very, very close. And they haven't done well against the mobile quarterbacks, like you stated. So I'll jump on and co-sign with you and go that route. Let's go ahead and head on over to the next game, unless you have any other thoughts on this one.
Nope. On to the next.
Alrighty, the Washington football team heading to the Carolina Panthers. Carolina is favored by 3.5 over under 43. What's your thoughts here?
This is this game's going to be interesting. Cam Newton going up against his old coach who didn't want him. The team who had their quarterback go down first in Fitzmagic and then didn't even want to take a look at him and kind of snubbed him a couple times over. And now he gets a shot to play him in his first start back in Carolina. Like, I think Cam Newton's going to be super hyped up for this game. And I just hope it's not overhyped, right? I hope he doesn't try and play outside of himself while giving that Washington team some fits. Their defensive line has definitely taken a hit, losing Chase Young. So that does leave them a little bit susceptible on the defensive line. He's not going to have to worry about as much pressure around him, which is a good thing. Big game out of Christian McCaffrey, I think. It will be interesting to see whether he favors DJ Moore, or if we see a bit more Robbie Anderson in this game and going forward. So I am especially paying attention to that as a DJ Moore owner, trying to figure out what the hell I'm going to do with this guy for the rest of the season. So overall, I think Carolina continues to ride their defense. I think they found some things that work for them. Their offense does open up with McCaffrey back, and it just creates a whole nother layer of complexity. So I think Carolina covers this. I think it's honestly, I like just the over 24-20 is kind of where I have this game. So Carolina covers. We just hit the over in a game that revenge factor, right? I mean, and that's the big part about this game is Cam gets to go up against his old ball coach and kind of stick it to him for not bringing him along with him over to Washington.
Right. And there's a lot of players on both sides of the ball that have played on either organization. So it's a very interesting type of thing there. Like, this is you sit there and you think about all the different names and the different players that played that followed Rivera up to Washington and all of those different narratives that come to play on that one. So very, very interesting on this one. I'm right there with you. The Carolina defense has been pretty good lately. They've really started kind of coming back to some of their early ways early in the season. They've really started looking better on the defensive side of the ball there. Again, I think the Panthers get a spark in there with Cam back in the driver's seat in the quarterback room. And I think that they are going to come out and show out in this one. So again, I think that this one, I'm going to take the over. I'm a little more optimistic as far as points go. I think this one's going to be probably a 27-23 type of matchup here. So I do see that Carolina winning, covering, and the over as well. I'm a little leery on playing some of my Washington football team players. I think Terry McLaurin will still have a pretty decent game there. But as far as these running backs go, it'll be interesting to see how this one comes to play, because we haven't really seen either. We really haven't had a huge J.D. McKissic sighting, and Antonio Gibson hasn't really stepped into that role that we all thought that he was going to have coming into the season. So not necessarily been the best fantasy structure for him coming forward there. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, touching on Gibson real quick. If he can find his way into the end zone, he will hit his fantasy projection, but he needs to find the end zone to hit it. Like, he's not getting it off of volume and production alone. He needs to score 6 to be able to hit that high water mark for him. So we'll see. He did it twice last week against probably a superior rush defense in Tampa Bay. So right. We'll see if that trend can continue a little bit. So maybe we do see a whole lot of running back work between McCaffrey and Gibson, and between the two of them. I mean, do we see, 15 targets, 10 catches, 15 targets between the two of them in the passing game? I think that's pretty easy to do because of McCaffrey's workload, but it'll be interesting to see how much Gibson can contribute to that.
Yeah, I would agree with that one. Before we get to the next matchup, we're going to go to a question coming in on YouTube. Cash's Stylist on YouTube. Cash, good to see you again. Thanks for tuning in. Sup, gents? Do you like Ayuk or Bateman this weekend? And who do you guys like more for the next 2 weeks QB, Cam or Fields? Ooh, couple of good ones there. Kevin, what are your thoughts? Kick us off.
So I think, let's see. I think I like Ayuk in this one this weekend. Like, he's back in the mix of things. Like, they have kind of reintegrated him into the offense. We've seen him with some splashy plays here. And I think that continues. Ayuk is really trying to take some pressure off of Debo, and now that Kittle's back, this is what the Niners offense envisioned themselves being, is kind of what we saw last week against the Rams. Is we can run the ball first, but now we have enough weapons to spread it out and keep your secondary honest. Jeff Wilson should be more than able to carry that workload, with Mitchell being listed as, I guess, doubtful technically for that game, but for all intents and purposes, Mitchell's not playing. So I like Ayuk over Bateman this week, and then Cam or Fields. So, let me think about that for a second, Derek. Who do you like for receivers? And I'll compile my thoughts on quarterbacks.
So as far as the receivers go, I like both of them. I lean towards Ayuk on this one. As far as that goes. But I do think that Bateman will have some pretty good work there. You saw him really start to come to life in that fourth quarter there and start doing some big things there. I think that will start to continue because he is showing some good things there. Ayuk, I can't argue with what you're talking about there as far as that goes. But the other thing, too, is that with this matchup this week, right, San Francisco taking on Jacksonville, that one may be over a little bit quicker than not. Or it could be that Jacksonville comes out and finds some firepower there. The Ravens and the Bears, right? Like, I see that we already covered that one, saying that is going to be a more defensive-minded battle. We saw that one coming in as a bit of a lower-scoring game there. So, I like the more perceived volume that I'm going to see out of Ayuk in San Francisco, and the higher-scoring game that I'm going to see out of that San Francisco-Jacksonville. So, I'm going to take Ayuk there. What are your thoughts on the QBs?
Last thing on the wide receivers. Bateman might have the safer floor, just so we're clear. Mm-hmm. Like, I could see Bateman with more receptions, roughly the same yardage total as Ayuk, but I do think Ayuk has a better opportunity to find himself into the end zone. So, depending on what your matchup looks like, that's something to keep in mind also. Like, if you just need a safe floor and a guy that you know is going to get you 11 points, 12 points, something like that, Bateman might be your guy. If you're needing something more like 16, 17, 18 points out of a receiver, I would lean towards Ayuk. I think he has a better potential of getting behind the Jacksonville secondary and going in for 6. As far as the quarterbacks go, I'm going to lean Justin Fields on this one. So we know that they have the Ravens this week, but next week they play the Lions on Thanksgiving. And the Lions are terrible. And the Lions have been terrible on Thanksgiving. So I do like Fields, especially next week against Detroit on Thanksgiving. Cam, after this game against Washington, plays a Miami team who, again, we talked about a little bit ago, their defense is just seemingly hitting its stride right now. So I do think that they can find ways to limit a lot of what Carolina wants to do outside of Christian McCaffrey. So that will keep Cam in check a little bit. So if I had to make a decision between the two, I'm leaning Justin Fields. If someone really felt compelled to put up a better argument for Cam Newton, I don't know that I'm going to stop him. I don't feel like there's that big of a gap. It's not monstrous, but Cam, having played quarterback in the NFL for so long, mentally, he's probably a safer floor play. Fields, I think, with what we've seen in his growth pattern, if he continues on this path that we've seen the last 2 weeks before his bye week, coming into this last third of the season or last half, however we're breaking this down now with 18 weeks, I think Fields does have a little bit more upside than Cam does.
I would agree with that, right? So Cam, I think, has a better week this week than Fields does, but I think Fields has a field day next week against the Lions, whereas Cam, I think, will tend to struggle, and that Carolina offense will tend to struggle next week against Miami. So 2 weeks combined, I am going to take Fields, but if you're talking about this week, I would be taking Cam, and so that could be an interesting deal there where you could potentially because Cash, I would imagine that you're trying to stream a quarterback there. So if you're looking to stream a quarterback, I would probably take Cam this week and see if I could stream Fields next week there. And at the same time, right, going to Kevin's point that Cam, I think, will have probably a little safer floor there, that if you're not able to pick up Fields off of the waiver wire again for a streaming option next week, I think you're still safe to start Cam there. So very, very great question. Thanks for chiming in, Cash. Always a pleasure to see you in the chat and in the questions there. Thanks for tuning in. Let's go ahead and head on over to the Jacksonville Jaguars are hosting the San Francisco 49ers. The Niners favored by 6.5. Over under on this game, 45. What are your thoughts here?
The Niners are playing like the better team right now. I think the only thing that worries me about this is West Coast teams traveling to the Eastern time zone do tend to struggle a little bit more. So I think the thing that helps the Niners in this is they're a ground and pound team anyway. Like, they want to keep the ball on the ground. Everything runs off the running. Too many puns. Everything plays off the running game. So, again, I don't expect Mitchell to play. He's doubtful. So, big Jeff Wilson day. If you're looking for running back help and I see he's out there on your waiver wire, feel free to grab him and play him. He has a floor of a flex play and a high of, a mid-range running back 2 for you. So you could, see 85 to 100 yards out of him. Hopefully he gets in the end zone for 6 to help boost those stats, but he'll see probably 23 touches in this game. Jacksonville is just – I don't know about Jacksonville. Offensively, they're struggling a little bit. Dan Arnold and Agnew have kind of been the bright spots. Who would have known? Justin Fields has not looked overly great. The San Francisco defense is dynamic enough up front that I think they're going to give him a lot of trouble, and they don't really have the playmakers to get behind the secondary where the Niners' weakness is. So I could see San Francisco jumping out on him. I'm going to say the under. On this one, I just don't see Jacksonville putting up many points, so we might see something like a 24 to 17 type ball game, something like that. But I do think it's the under. I'll take San Francisco. They impressed me enough against the Rams, that for 1 week I'll take them to cover almost a touchdown spread.
Gotcha. Yeah, I see this one probably playing a little bit closer on this one, where it being kind of a 20-17, 17-14 type of matchup. Like, I don't see this one being a super high scoring affair there. I do like the Niners to win, but I do think Jacksonville finds a way to sneak inside, and it's probably going to be a backdoor cover with the last second field goal type of thing to probably get inside that 6.5 there. So I'm going to take Jacksonville to cover. I'm going to take the under as well. It'll be interesting to see what Jacksonville can do, and if James Robinson can go. Like, that was been one of the things he's been kind of all over that injury report there, and so that could dramatically change if he doesn't go, because it seems like if he doesn't go and they can't establish that run game, Trevor Lawrence tends to struggle a little bit more so there. And again, I just don't see them being able to move the ball and win this game through the air. So, yeah, depending upon what James Robinson does, that could very drastically sway this one to me, where I'm calling for the Niners to cover. But right now, I'm going to hope that James Robinson plays and see kind of that just inside on the cover there. And Cash saying thanks as always, or thanks, appreciate y'all as always. Cash, we appreciate you tuning in. Thanks for tuning in there. Let's go ahead and head on over to the next matchup, unless you've got any other thoughts on this one.
No, I like this next one.
Yeah, this one should be a fun one. We've got the Cincinnati Bengals heading to the Las Vegas Raiders. Cincinnati favored by 1. The over-under on this one is 50.5. Your thoughts here?
The Raiders had been looking fairly decent until they ran into the Kansas City Chiefs this past week. And right. I think we did see a bit of a blueprint in how to beat this Raiders secondary, who had been playing fairly well. And the Bengals have the offensive weapons to do a similar thing to what the Chiefs did. Obviously, they're not the exact same, but Jamar Chase and T. Higgins will equal Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce as far as total output in this game. I truly believe that. I think Joe Mixon will keep them balanced for this game. The Raiders, to stay in this game, they get a lot of Darren Waller. Like that, the Bengals don't cover the tight end very well. So a lot of Darren Waller. Keep them going. We'll see Hunter Renfrow. I don't think this is going to be a very big Bryan Edwards game. We're not going to see a whole lot out of him. So Waller and Renfrow, they're going to have to see where they can get their deep shots down the field here to help some explosive plays. Josh Jacobs should have a pretty decent game in this one as well, trying to help keep them balanced. But I like the 50. Like, it looks good. It probably be a little bit more of a high-scoring affair, something 24-20, something of that nature to just get over the top of it. And I'm going to take the Bengals. I think the bye week did them a lot of good. They're able to reset after kind of sliding their way into the bye week and see what this team can do and grow from, having that time off to self-evaluate. So I'm going to take the Bengals on the road, and I'm going to take the over just barely.
Yeah, this one here was a tough one for me when I was going back and forth, because I think I see a lot of offensive production happening on both sides of the ball there, and your playmakers on either side of the ball having very good games. Wouldn't surprise me to see a long Jamar Chase over the top type of touchdown in this one. I could absolutely see that one happening, and I would love that's one I would feel pretty good about on almost an anytime type of play for him as far as the props go. But looking at the game at hand here, right? Like, Cincinnati has been kind of an up and down type of team this year, right? We've seen them ride some highs, we've seen them ride some lows, and they're kind of coming after that win at Baltimore. They've kind of come down a little bit, and I see them being able to kind of bounce back here a little bit. And I think they're going to have a pretty good game here. And I see this one playing out about 27-24 when it's all said and done, with the Bengals winning on that one. So I see them winning, see the cover, see the over, just barely on the over. But I think this is going to be a very fun game to watch, and one that I'd be interested to see if it wasn't going up against the next matchup that we're going to talk about here. But any other thoughts before we move on?
T. Higgins. I think this has the potential to be a really good T. Higgins game. And while Chase might have the explosive play, I do think they're going to use T. Higgins to kind of manage the chain movement and everything else here in this one. He provides an interesting body type for the Raiders to cover. So I'm pretty confident starting T. Higgins as a wide receiver 2 or flex if I am in that situation.
I like it. All righty, let's go ahead and head to the matchup that I'm probably the most interested to see of all the matchups this weekend. The Dallas Cowboys heading to Kansas City to face off against the Chiefs. The Chiefs are favored by 2.5. The over/under on this one, 56. What are your thoughts here?
I like the Cowboys and I like the under.
Mm-hmm.
So I starting at 54, that looked about right. 56, that not that it can't get there, and obviously Vegas sets these lines where you're getting action on both sides of it. But for this screams one of those games that as much as we want all this offensive firepower, something's going to go wrong, and it's going to hit the under. I think the Cowboys are really going to lean on the running game here to start. They get Tyrone Smith back, so I think that helps Zeke immensely. So I do think the Cowboys I don't know that they want to get in a shootout on the road, right? They're comfortable doing that at home. Arrowhead's a tough place to play. And because of that, I do think they're going to lean on their offensive line here a little bit. Like, keep it out of Mahomes' hands, make him push a little bit. It will be interesting to see how they try and contain Tyreek Hill, if they're going to let Trayvon Diggs just shadow him one-on-one throughout the whole game if they think he's good enough, or if they're going to do some different type of coverages in the secondary. The offensive line's been a little bit leaky, so I think Micah Parsons is going to have a good game for the Cowboys defense as well. And then as far as the Chiefs go, I think the Broncos kind of showed us they're going to have to run the ball to really kind of hurt the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are pretty well set up against the pass. They know what to expect and everything else. But do you activate CEH? Andy Reid said he's had a good week of practice, so is he going to be activated for the game? And then Darrell Williams, what kind of dynamic do we see with the two of them? What's that going to look like? So all these things, we have a few questions as far as the running game goes. But I still think the Chiefs' defense isn't very good. Like, they're trying to play better, but I don't think that they're very good. And I think the Cowboys have been more opportunistic with turnovers this season. And I think that they find a way to turn Mahomes over, one more time than the Chiefs can turn Dak over, and that will make the difference in the end.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Amari Cooper is out in this one from what I last saw.
I see Michael Gallup.
Yep.
Everybody's playing Michael Gallup now. We were talking about Michael Gallup Tuesday, even when Cooper was slated to play. But everybody's on Michael Gallup now.
Yep. And I see both Gallup and CeeDee Lamb having good games in this one. I saw Zeke having a monster game in this one here as well. And I think that that's more the narrative that's going to play out, is that the Cowboys are going to find a way to come out, take a lead and then try and take the air out the ball and really try and ground and pound and let Zeke and that monster offensive line that they have just do the work that they want to do and try to impose their will there. Kansas City is an interesting one there, right? Because we've seen them play much better over the last couple of weeks here. But when we've seen them play much better, it's typically because Patrick Mahomes hasn't thrown an interception. We haven't seen those turnovers come. And I don't know that I'm going to see that one come to play. I think Trayvon Diggs probably takes one away from Patrick Mahomes this week. It's not going to surprise me if that one comes to play. Trayvon Diggs is playing otherworldly at a cornerback position right now. And I see that one. I see him picking one off here again. So I think that the Kansas City is going to have a little bit of a come down from beating the Vegas Raiders in the matchup that we thought we were going to see last week. And again, I don't see this one playing out either, where we're going to see a huge point total on this one. So I like the under on this one. Really when it kind of comes down to it, I see this one again playing out probably at like a 30-27. Well, let me take that back. I see this one probably playing out about a 27-24 type of matchup is what I had here on my notes. So Dallas, and I see Dallas winning and being able to pull that one out on the road here. So very, very interesting there. And we'll see how this one comes to play, but this is the one that I am really excited to tune in and watch this weekend. I'm a bot on YouTube saying huge week from Jeff Wilson. Just watch. Kevin just said that one a little bit ago when we covered that Niners and Jacksonville game. He's absolutely expecting Jeff Wilson to have a very good showing out for your fantasy rosters there. Thanks for tuning in. I'm a bot, and thanks for the comment there. Let's go ahead and head on over into the next matchup, unless you got some other thoughts on this Chiefs Cowboys.
No. Nothing that hasn't been said either by our show or across all airwaves this week. This is the game that NBC wishes they had.
Right.
Not the game that they have this week. And really, it worked out when the Packers played the Chiefs because Rodgers wasn't playing, and we all kind of said, "Whew, this one's not on national television." Well, now this is the game. Like, well, damn, like ESPN and NBC both are going, what the hell did we do? Like we passed up this game for everything else, and they could have flexed it. They could have flexed this game in and chose not to.
Right.
I think it might have had to do with national television games for the Chiefs, but still.
Yeah, very well could have. Let's go ahead and head on over to Seattle. The Arizona Cardinals heading to the Seattle Seahawks. Arizona favored by 2.5, the over-under 48. What are your thoughts here?
Seattle's defense is terrible. The Cardinals are going to be without DeAndre Hopkins again. There's a good chance that Kyler doesn't play for this week with their bye week coming in week 11. Week 12. So, I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I'm staying away from this game. Mm-hmm. After the performance that the Cardinals put up last week, I'm staying away from it.
And the performance that Seattle put up, that was not any better.
Yeah, I think Russ came back a little early. He's trying to force it. It's going to hurt Tyler Lockett because I don't think that the command is there that he wishes there was. They need DK Metcalf. I about said Debo. They need DK Metcalf to stay focused and stay on the field instead of getting kicked out for doing stupid crap again. No Chris Carson. He's having surgery to end the season there. Like, it's kind of ugly. I think the Cardinals just have more talent right now. They're just better prepared even with the backup quarterback. So I'll say the Cardinals bounce back. I think James Conner bounces back from kind of a pedestrian week last week because they got behind so quickly, and they will balance this out this week. So good week out of James Conner. I think we'll see AJ Green with a decent week. I think Zach Ertz is going to be highly involved just as far as security goes in the passing game for the Cardinals. On the Seahawks side, I'm not playing Alex Collins to save my life this week. I will pivot to a ton of different options before I play Alex Collins. If you have Russ, you have to play Russ. Like, I understand that. So there's nothing wrong in that situation, but temper your expectations because I do not expect Russ to play otherworldly in this game as he still is recovering from finger surgery.
Right. I would agree with that one as well. I think that the Cardinals do win. Again, this is not one of those that I'm looking to put anything on in this one, whether it's on any of the options there, whether it's the spread, whether it's the over under, whether it's the money line. Like, this is one that I would also be staying away from as well. But I think that you're right, and I think you hit the nail on the head with the analysis there that the Cardinals are going to win this game. I think that, again, you'll probably see Kyler sit. That's the way that I have been planning this whole week on the rosters that I have Kyler on. So I'm not looking for the Cardinals to come out and be that dynamic offense that we've seen over these past couple of weeks. And so I think you're right. I think that this is going to be one that is going to be a lower scoring affair. Take the under. I think I'll take the Cardinals, but I'm not excited for this one much either way. Let's go ahead and head over to Facebook where we've got a question coming in. Andy on Facebook was offered Eckler for Kelsey. He also said Eckler, Hawkinson for Kelsey Jacobs. I have no tight end, but Fant and Dan are in my waivers. My RBs are Dalvin Cook, Barkley, Jacobs, and Mitchell. Yeah, I'd probably just pick up Fant and call it a day on this one. And I'm assuming that you also have Hawkinson on this roster there, Andy.
No, that's what he'd be getting. So he'd be getting Eckler or Eckler and Hawkinson.
Oh yeah.
Honestly,
In that case, I like picking up. I like picking up Fant as well, but man, that's a tough one.
yeah, I mean Fant and Darnold. Does Eckler provide enough of a difference at the position?
Yes, it is, Andy. It is tough.
You know what? I think
I would probably do it myself.
I don't know that Hawkinson blows me away. I mean, if you want the Hawkinson side, whatever. But honestly, I'd run. I like the idea of running with Cook and
Eckler,
and then Barkley or Jacobs or Mitchell, like whichever one. And that's a lot of running back depth. But this time of year, with all these guys getting dinged up the way they are, it's not a bad idea because you don't know how Barkley's actually going to look coming back. Arnold and Fant, you can stream those two to play the matchup. I understand why you would want to do it. I think I'm good either way, Andy. I truly am. So if you really feel like you need some help at running back, then yeah, do the Eckler for Kelsey. And I don't see a big problem with that. But if you feel like you'd rather keep Kelsey in your lineup, Kelsey does take away the deficiency of the down weeks from Jacobs. Mitchell, I think, is just out this 1 week, and then you can run with Cook, Jacobs, and then Barkley or Mitchell, whichever one you feel best about. So you don't have to make this trade. If you want to, I understand, but you don't have to.
Right. No, I get that. When you look at it too, I'm just pulling this up here real quick for some more ideas here, right? So when you look at it, TJ Hawkinson has been averaging in half-point PPR scoring 9.2 points per game in fantasy, right? Travis Kelce on the same clip, averaging 13.4 points per game. Let's go ahead and head over to the running back side of things, where if you're getting Austin Eckler has been putting up 17.8, and he'd also be getting Jacobs back. Let's see where old Jacobs is at here. Josh Jacobs is putting up about 12.3. So, yeah, it's going to be one of those that even on a per matchup basis, like you're going to be getting kind of a pretty average weekly exchange there between those two, right? Because it's going to be about 5 points per game on average that you're gaining or giving up at a positional thing there. So what I would tell you is it really depends on if you feel that tight end is really going to make up a positional advantage for you, and it's a set it and forget it type of play with Kelsey. That could be something there, but Jacobs is going to most likely be your flex type of deal there. And so I kind of like my roster construction a little bit more so when I would run with Hawkinson and Eckler, more so than Kelsey and Jacobs there. But it's close and it's tough, and I could make an argument for either way. Just the way that I tend to construct rosters, I like running backs a little bit more so. A little bit more information. Doesn't want to lose Kelsey, but I'm 8-2, and Josh Jacobs is in my bench, so I feel like I'm not losing much there.
Well, hell, if you don't want to lose Kelsey, then there's your answer.
Right.
I mean, I think you just answered it yourself. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. I think the more I look at it, I think you keep Travis Kelce. Like, yes, it's a down year from his historic clip last year, but the Chiefs offensively have been playing better. They still have a couple games against the Broncos, and Kelce always seems to destroy the Broncos. So his schedule down the stretch does look pretty nice. On the contrary, I don't love TJ Hawkinson's schedule down the stretch, and this Lions team they're bound to give up. At the moment, they've had a little bit of fight. They're playing with a lot of pride right now. But at some point, they're bound to just roll over. So once they do, I'm not sure that Hawkinson is the best answer. And I definitely don't want to do it this week necessarily with the backup quarterback playing in Detroit. I can't remember his damn name right now. That's how much I don't know about him. How terrible am I? But I think the more I look at it, I think you're right. You keep Kelsey. Jacobs can be your bench or your flex spot, something like that, and you have a little bit of injury security. So weeks like this where Mitchell sits because of his ribs, his finger, whatever his deal is, you can plug him in. But being at 8-2, ride it out. You're good.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I'm just trying to look at some matchups there as well. And like playoff matchup for Kelsey, championship week in most leagues, which is week 17. You're going to be playing. He's going to be playing against Cincinnati. We already covered that a little bit ago. That Cincinnati gives up a ton of points to opposing tight ends there. Pittsburgh, again, that's a tougher matchup there, but it'll be interesting to see what that Pittsburgh defense looks like here. Going forward, they've been looking a little bit not as stout as they had been. And then the Chargers would be the first week of your playoff there as well. And Kelsey tends to do all right against the Chargers, right? Those divisional matchup games, they tend to do all right there. And so I'm probably liking more so the matchups that I'm seeing there as well, coming from a Kelsey side of it for the playoffs on that one as well. So, Andy, I think you've answered your own question, and I'm just looking to try and confirm what you're thinking there. So, I would probably also stick the Kelsey route as well. Guys, appreciate everybody chiming in and putting the comments and the questions out there. Again, if you have any others, throw them out there. We'll talk about them. We'll go through them. Let's go ahead and head on over to our next matchup, though. We've got the Pittsburgh Steelers heading to the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers favored by 6 in this one, over under 47. Thoughts on this game?
Man, I liked this game a lot more when it opened because the Chargers opened at -3 and now it's jumped 3 points. That's a pretty big swing. Now, the Steelers are without TJ Watt. Big Ben is trending in the right direction, but is not officially off the COVID list just yet. That has to be done by tomorrow. 2 p.m. Eastern, I believe, is the deadline for that. So we'll know for sure what Big Ben's status is. If it's Mason Rudolph, absolutely, you're smashing it with the Chargers. If it's Big Ben, I think you could still roll with the Chargers. Like it just this Pittsburgh defense without TJ Watt does not scare me as much. And I think that a good dose of Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, have Jared Cook come in there and let them kind of run this out at home. The Steelers fans travel well, so I would expect the crowd to honestly be like 55-45 in favor of the Steelers playing there in LA with the Chargers, but that's okay. They're used to playing all their road games anyway. But this Chargers team in their powder blues, what the hell? I like it, and I'm going to take the over because I want to see points in this game.
I like the Chargers. I don't like the points in this one. I just don't know that you're going to see many of them come up, especially if Mason Rudolph's playing. Big Ben maybe changes that a little bit as far as like adding another maybe touchdown onto the board there. Chase Claypool looks like he's going to be back and playing in this one, so you may see a deep shot there. But again, I think the Chargers win this one pretty handily, and I'm going to take the under on this one being a 27-18 type of matchup there. So I'm not a fan of this game. And again, to the point that you made earlier, I wish that we had seen a different Sunday night game here, but them's the breaks. And that's the way that this one's going to play out there. Again, I'm looking to start all of my Chargers there. Maybe a little hesitant as far as Mike Williams goes, but Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler absolutely smashed the yes button. Same thing with Justin Herbert. For the Pittsburgh side of it, smash the button on Najee. And I'm probably going to take a little bit more of a pivot type of option if I can on some of these other Steelers. So any other thoughts here?
No, I think that sums it up. Najee, Deontay Johnson, Claypool if you have to. If Ben plays. If Ben doesn't play, I'm not playing Claypool. Not playing Pat Freiermuth. All those players now become, I'm not going to say unusable, but undesirable to play with Mason Rudolph at quarterback.
Right. Andy on Facebook saying as well, he has Mike Williams, Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen, Rashad Bateman, Julio Jones. So yeah, I think I'd probably stick Kelsey on that one, even seeing those wide receivers.
Yeah, you stick it because you're running Diggs and Allen every week. You can throw Bateman into a flex spot if you don't like the running back matchups. Mike Williams, I'm staying away from. He's kind of regressed. He was great for you the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, and now he's relegated to the bench. Julio's on IR, but Andy, stick with what you got, man. I like your roster.
I would agree. All righty, heading to the last game of the week here. We've got the New York Giants heading to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are favored by 11. The over-under on this one, 49.5. What are your thoughts here?
Tampa Bay's only 3-6 against the spread this season. And that's what worries me about this. Yes, they're at home. They're coming off back-to-back losses with a bye week in between. They're struggling. We expect Gronk to be back, which is a good thing. Chris Godwin hit the injury report today, which is never a good thing after not really being on there. You still have Mike Evans. Antonio Brown doesn't look like he's going to be playing in this one either, whether for whatever reason. I still like the over in this game. I think we find a way to get there, but I think this New York Giants defense is going to be playing with a little bit of pride, much like they did against the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think Kenny Golladay being back, Kadarius Toney, I do think that the fact that the Giants will have their full complement of weapons will be able to keep this one close. So I'm going to take the Giants to cover the 11. They'll keep it within 11. And I'm going to say the over because it's Monday Night Football, and it's way better when teams are scoring lots of points on Monday night.
Yeah, you're not kidding. Interesting note in this game here as well, right? Vita Vea, I believe, is going to miss this game, and I think that he's a huge part of that Tampa run defense and being able to stop the run there. So if he misses, you could see that open some things up for this Giants to be able to establish a little bit of a run game in there. Saquon may be back in this one, right? That's kind of what it's been trending at and looking like there. So you could see a little bit of a reinvigorated Giants offense here. But I think Tampa Bay does come out and win this game, but I don't see them being able to hold it. I see this more of a touchdown type of game, more so than an 11-point type of game. So I'm going to take the over because, again, I want lots of points on a Monday night, and I'm going to take the Giants to cover, the Bucs to win on this one. And it should be a very interesting thing there, right? Because I'm looking for a lot of the same things that you just mentioned. What does Tampa Bay look like coming out here after kind of getting hit, just kind of punched in the mouth last week and not really having a response for that one? And so does coming home against a not great Giants team prove to be a get right type of game, or are we seeing this being a point in the season where Tampa Bay really needs to get it together? So it'll be interesting to see how this one comes to play and how this one turns out there. But I think this one should be at least a fun game to watch as far as Monday Night Football is concerned. Any other thoughts on this one?
No, this kind of wraps up it. Again, it's a better slate of games this week. Couple marquee matchups, some divisional, some just high octane offenses. So better overall. But it's crunch time for fantasy, man. Like it is. Everyone's jockeying for position. We got a couple weeks here before the playoffs are set in place. So have some fun and stay diligent. Stay diligent. Lots of injuries, lots of news, always changing. So make sure you're paying attention.
Absolutely. Guys, if you have any questions, need any advice going into the Sunday matchups, you can hit us up on our socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Good Old Boys FF. Again, do us a favor, hop over on the YouTube channel, click the subscribe button, ring the bell to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast YouTube channel. But I do believe that that's going to bring us down to the end of it. He's Kevin. I'm Derek. Have a good one. Be safe.